should be rolling. The neighbor just started up with the lawnmower, so hopefully that background noise isn't picked up. And this is just an update on Prima in her training. I want to say it's been about a month since the first introductory video. So the first video I did with everybody in the barn was the small circle on the long reins at the walk as I introduced each horse. And then every other horse in the barn has some, hello kitty, has some changes within the training program depending on how they're doing. And Prima, who turns 31 very shortly, she is just going to be staying on this particular exercise. She's been steadily putting on weight, although slowly, and really enjoys her hour on the long reins. We do about 30 minutes each way. So this is sort of the last 10 minutes of working to the right today, and then I'll show the first 10 minutes going the other way. And so the small circle for her is just helping her keep the hind legs engaged. The long reins help stabilize the pelvis and the back with more engagement. And at least she's motivated to keep walking. So she's self-propelled, even if she's slow, enough that she's starting to really stabilize that axial skeleton. She's using the right muscles, and she's offering or volunteering to lengthen that neck more and more frequently. She's been doing quite a bit of that head tossing and hiking up the hind legs, so she's like that, right on cue. So she's sort of feeling the work of it. But it's not too much work. It's just very gentle work to sort of recondition my older horse who, had the colic and then the teeth removal. And it's just going to take for her a lot of time and repetition. So I just sort of wanted to check in. This is about a month later from the last video we did checking in with Prima. I get more and more often her attempt to lengthen the neck like that, especially towards the end of one direction. But it's not solid yet. She's still pretty unstable. She's still mostly sort of dropping her back or unstable through the hindquarters and shortening the neck. And she's just at this point, 30 days later, beginning to find more and more length through the neck. The voluntary lengthening of the neck tells me that she's starting to feel more stable in her back and hindquarters. As the neck shortens, lengthens, goes up, goes down, she hikes her legs around, swishes her tail, tosses her head. All of that is just her telling me it's difficult, right? So she's gotten very weak in her core muscles as well as her outer muscles. So I don't need to challenge her with anything more than this, but I try to work her about 5 hours a week. If I work her 7 days a week, some of the sessions are shorter. But the more I work her gently, like this, at the walk, not too demanding, let her work through all these different challenges and slowly build up the coordination and the muscle. Her appetite has improved a little bit, so she's eating more. She's put on a little bit of weight, and we're just going to keep going with this exercise. I'm not going to change anything for Prima until she either gets really stuck in the posture of long and low or until she physically looks stronger. The more often she chooses long and low, I would probably not change my training strategy. I'd probably still work on the small circles, on the long reins, in the halter. But the longer she's in long and low, the more I can start thinking about trying some trot transitions and seeing if that helps a little bit. So my other neighbor is fixing the gate. If you hear a high-pitched beep, that's what that noise is. So these last sort of 10 minutes to the right, you can see she's kind of playing with her leg placement, tossing her head, swishing her tail a bit, neck shortening, neck lengthening. And so there's lots of changes going on. So the good news is she's not really stuck, but it tells me don't change what I'm doing just yet, because I'm getting more and more steps with a lengthened neck, but not as consistently as I would like to see before I offer another challenge. And just as a reminder, I do only one change of direction in her session, because changing direction when it comes to balance or the coordination, changing direction is a lot harder than changing the speed between halt, walk, trot, or canter. So like there where she really lets go of her neck, you can really see that her stability in her hindquarters and back is not really good enough yet to just keep her straight and forward on the circle. So as soon as she lets go of the neck, there's always a little bit of a steering issue, there's sort of a funky step, she might drag her toes or stumble a little bit, and all of that is showing me that she's in that in-between stage, feeling stable enough to lengthen the neck, but once she lengthens the neck, not stable enough to sustain that longer posture, right? So she goes back and forth, back and forth. So it shows me we're making progress, but she still needs more support, more time, more practice, until that long and low posture is more stable and more consistent. Right? So there, when she really lengthens the neck, even though she's biting a fly or itching her leg, there's almost sort of a sideward step because her hindquarters are not supporting that muscular release. So she wobbles a little bit. So we'll just do a couple more minutes this way. And then when I change direction and take her to the left, as soon as we start the new direction, we essentially start over, right, with the challenges to the balance and the coordination. So what she's doing at the end of 30 minutes to the right should be my most consistent and most stable change. And you can see, even after 30 minutes to the right, she's still going in and out between the posture of extension, the posture of long and low. She's a little bit fussy. It's not so easy. And at least she kind of maintains a stable walk. She's not halting a lot or refusing to move forward or going faster than a walk. So she's working on it. It's a work in progress. Good. So we'll do one more lap, and then we'll change direction. So the head tossing is sort of all part of it. The rein resistance I give is very carefully, one rein at a time, right? So if she pulls on this inside rein, I loosen the outside rein a little. It's hard to see if my support is accurate, which is what she needs to make this change, then you're not going to see a lot of fluctuation in the reins. So some people can perceive it as I'm sort of having both reins tight. I'm never restricting the use of her head and neck, right? So that head tossing has more to do with either muscular comfort or stability, lack of stability, or even just frustration from sort of trying to use new muscles and re-strengthening her body. But if I keep the pressure on the reins isolated, right, left, right, left, right, left, I'm creating a very narrow channel for her skeleton on this circle, but I'm never going against the motion. If two reins get tight at the same time, I'm going against the motion. One rein tight at a time channels the motion. So then I'm just going to go ahead and change direction. And as I change direction, I'm just getting this excess inside rein out of my way so it doesn't wrap around my legs on this small of a circle. Getting my outside rein a little bit out of my way. Right? And then we'll just see how she does on the other direction. But right away, instead of dropping her back completely and shortening her neck excessively, she's still going in and out of the posture of extension, which I would expect more of this posture the first 10 minutes on the new direction. But if I see her lengthening the neck in the first 10 minutes, I know we're really making progress, that she's starting to feel more and more stable through her back and hindquarter. Right? And this is a very slow process of development, but it's a very safe process. If you have a horse like her, she's a bit old and a bit fragile right now. So it would be easy to overtax her body or stress her out or create lameness or create so much stress in the body that the exercise would have the reverse effect. It would be harmful to her health instead of beneficial. But this exercise, excuse me, is challenging. It helps stabilize the back and pelvis very quickly, but can all be done at the walk, doesn't need to have a lot of concussion or speed. She can make 10,000 mistakes every single day. It's no big deal. And I'm not causing the change of posture. I'm guiding the movement just to be straight on a very small circle. So I'm just channeling whatever forward she gives me. I'm not trying to make her go faster or slower. I'm not trying to position her head and neck. She can do whatever she likes. Even that, no big deal. But I'm just creating an outer and an inner boundary to a circular path with the long reins. And the narrower we make sort of the corridor, the path of travel, the more we're supporting a healthy alignment of the spine, right? And in this case, from the tail to the pole, not the other way around, and resisting the twisting of the spine, that left-right rotation function that causes the pelvis to tilt side to side and causes the barrel to roll side to side. So I'm really stabilizing the alignment and the rotation functions of the spine in this very narrow corridor between the inside and outside rein. And then I picked a short inside rein, so the radius of my circle is small enough that it kind of helps her keep her hind legs a little bit more underneath her, encouraging more engagement as well as the straightness. And that blowing with the lengthening says, yes, you're making headway. Didn't last long, right? So I got 3 or 4 good steps, that nice blowing and a release. There's another one as she lengthens. She does that a lot as she's releasing muscle tightness. Right? But you can see it comes and goes. And it doesn't look like a huge improvement in a month, but the stability, the forwardness, the more and more strides I get with her lengthening her neck rather than shortening her neck, keeps telling me I'm on the right track and I just need to keep going. And there aren't a lot of different groundwork strategies I can do with this mare, and riding her right now is not fair. Right? She's just not strong enough to be ridden, so I'm confined to doing the groundwork. Right? I don't really want her trotting in this posture, and when I've played around with the trot, she just goes more upside down. Some horses will find long and low in the trot, or they'll find more hindquarter engagement and stability. She's not one of them. So after a little bit of experimentation, I had to eliminate trot and canter work. So I go, what can I do to expedite an improvement in her balance without being able to play with trot and canter, without being able to ride her? And so I have several options, but I thought this one is not only creating more lateral stability, but also helping her really engage and build up the muscle of the hindquarters, which you can see have gotten very weak. So that's why I opted for this exercise. And I'm just going to, we'll check in with Prima about once a month. But I don't expect the changes to be fast or even very obvious for probably several months. Like this is going to be pretty much, I think we're in March now, and it wouldn't surprise me if it takes her through the summer just working on this, but we'll sort of check in month by month and see how she's doing. But it wouldn't surprise me if it took 6 months before I really could see more muscle, before she was more stable and more consistent in a better posture. And maybe I get to play with Trot in that time, maybe I don't. We'll just have to see. But with a horse in sort of this condition at this age, the progress is necessarily slow and gentle. So I don't need to change what I'm doing. And like I said, I try to work her at least 5 days a week for about an hour each time. And if I could work her 7 days a week, an hour every day, I would do that. When my schedule sort of limits the time I have, I try to do at least 20 minutes each way or 15 minutes each way, just to sort of keep reiterating the support for her body. So the nervous system keeps becoming more and more familiar with a more stable coordination than what she has habituated for herself. Right, so I'll just do a few more minutes this way. But the fact that she has sort of started to lengthen her neck a bit in the first 10 minutes on either direction is really a big sign of progress. She doesn't have the muscle support to stay with her neck long, but it's telling me that she's integrating this change of coordination more and more into her nervous system. She can't hold it, but the sooner she finds her little attempts at the change in her posture, the more I know it's becoming familiar, a familiar pattern in her nervous system, right? But until I see stronger muscles, until that hindquarter beefs up a little bit and the back doesn't look quite so dropped and tight and the neck doesn't look quite so tight and skinny, I don't expect she's going to be able to hold the new posture without support until I see more muscle development. And she's going to be a great example over time that speed does not equal muscle development. There's a purpose for a cardiovascular workout with trot and canter and heavier work. But when you're changing coordination, sometimes the walk is the easiest way to get those changes, right? And in her case, it's the only way I can work her for now that's safe for her body and helps make progress, right? So what I hope to show with her over time is that it's the coordination of the skeleton, which is really ideally the same through the axial skeleton. The use of the spine is theoretically, ideally the same, whether it's walk, trot, canter, tracking left or tracking right. And the coordination of the spine or the axial skeleton is what dictates not only the placement and use of the legs, which is why she keeps hiking her legs up a lot. She's changing those leg kinematics. It also dictates the precise muscle development. So even though she's limited to the walk, and it's going to take a lot of repetition and support to really build the muscle and help her change this posture, I fully expect to see obvious muscle development just working at the walk. And that's a little bit of a new concept for most people. So that's really one of the biggest points, even though it's going to take several months for this mare to show muscle development in an obvious way. I fully expect it to come, right? And the more frequently I see her lengthen the neck, right, just like that, right on cue, the more frequently I see her lengthen the neck during the walk, the more I know we're getting into the correct muscle development that we need. Right? It has nothing to do with speed or a cardiovascular workout. So I'm going to wrap it up there because the neighbors are getting noisy again. And that's the update on Prima. So she'll be the one I probably videotape the least out of the group, only because not much is going to change. And maybe once a month, if you compare videos month by month, we might see the body taking shape over time. It's hard for me to notice because I see her every day, and even I have to look back at 30 days ago to this video and see, is there any kind of obvious improvement? Because when I look at her every day, I still see a lack of muscle, which is true, but we kind of forget what it looked like a month ago or 6 months ago. So keeping a video diary, especially during rehab like this, that's slow and repetitive, it does really help us realize how much progress we're making, because we have to look back, sometimes 30 days ago, to see, are there any visible changes? Because she's still struggling, I'm still supporting, she still hasn't achieved even really a consistent change in posture. That's really the first thing I'm looking to change, right? I get glimpses of it, but she can't hold it. And that can be a little demoralizing when you're rehabbing a horse. It takes a while, whether it's behavioral or physical or lameness issues. So I really like having a 20-minute check-in and a video diary, because even I forget. Like, I still think she looks terrible, but maybe compared to the last video, maybe a little improvement that's obvious. So we're going to stop the video there, and I'll get her back on film in another month.